Ever had that moment where you walk into a room and completely blank on why you're there? It's like your brain just took a detour, right?
We've all been there.
Well, get ready because today's deep dive is all about the part of the brain that's basically the grand central station of memory, the hippocampus. And we always say we're diving into the most fascinating research out there, and this one's a real humdinger.
It really is.
We got sent some incredible work that suggests this tiny structure, this hippocampus, is even more complex than we thought.
What's so cool about this research is that it goes beyond just, the size of the hippocampus. It's looking at its actual shape in people living in, of all places, Quito, Ecuador.
High up in the Andes Mountains, talk about a unique environment to be studying brains.
Right.
So we're diving into this brand new database, the first of its kind, that's giving us a whole new perspective on this crucial part of our brains.
It's called HippoML, and it's essentially a library of these, incredibly detailed 3D models of hippocampi. They've got data from 63 Ecuadorians, ranging in age from 18 all the way to 95.
Okay, before we get lost in the Andes, let's back up a sec. For those of us who haven't exactly crammed for a neuroanatomy exam lately, what is the hippocampus? And why should we care about its shape? I mean, it's a brain structure, right?
Well, yeah, picture like a seahorse, but nestled deep inside your brain. That's your hippocampus. It's essential for forming new memories, and we've known for a while that its size can be linked to a bunch of different conditions, from Alzheimer's to ADHD. But what's new here is the idea that it's not just about how big your hippocampus is, but also how it's shaped.
You're probably thinking, why go to all this trouble to measure a brain seahorse?
Right. Well, it turns out those tiny details, the shape, the contours, all of it, can actually tell us a lot about how our brains age and how diseases, like Alzheimer's, might develop. Think of it this way. If you're looking at a map, you need to understand both the distance and the terrain to really get where you need to go. This research is like giving us a much more detailed map of the hippocampus.
So it's like we're going from those old school two-dimensional maps to Google Earth. We're getting a much, much richer understanding of this really complex structure.
Exactly. And what they found in this Ecuadorian population is, it's intriguing, to say the least. One of the first things they noticed was that compared to people in, say, the U.S. or Norway, the participants in Quito had smaller hippocampal volumes on average.
Smaller. Does that mean?
Now, hold on. It's not quite that straightforward. There was no significant difference in volume between the Ecuadorians, Cubans, and people in the UK, for example.
Okay, so island nations in the Andes, similar hippocampal volumes. But this is where that 3D modeling comes in, right? They weren't just looking at overall size. They were analyzing all these specific aspects of the hippocampus's shape.
Exactly. They were measuring things like aspect ratio, basically how elongated the hippocampus is, and something called roundness, which, and this is fascinating, seems to actually change with age. Think of it like, a grape slowly becoming a raisin, but for your brain.
So as we get older, our hippocampi might actually become less smooth. What could even be causing that?
That is the million-dollar question, right? It could be completely normal aging processes, or it could be influenced by any number of environmental factors. We're talking altitude, diet, maybe even stress. This is where things get really, really exciting because we're just beginning to scratch the surface of how these factors might affect brain health.
It really makes you wonder what is going on in those mountainous regions of Ecuador that might be, affecting brain aging. Is it the altitude itself, their diet, some cultural factor we haven't even begun to consider?
And that's what's so cool about this research, right? It highlights how much our environment and lifestyle could be impacting our brains in ways that, we never even imagined.
So we've got these intriguing hints that our environment and lifestyle could be shaping the very structure of our brains, which is, kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. But I have to ask, how do you even begin to measure something as intricate as brain shape? I'm picturing a neuroscientist with some high-tech calipers carefully measuring a brain seahorse.
It's not quite calipers, but you're not far off.
Yeah.
The researchers used some pretty advanced imaging techniques, along with computational modeling, to create those really detailed 3D models of the hippocampus.
And this is where that HippoML database becomes such a game changer, right? Having all that data just at their fingertips.
Oh, absolutely. HippoML let them analyze those 3D models with a level of precision that honestly wasn't possible before. It's like going from, a blurry old photograph to one of those super crisp, high-definition images. Suddenly you can see all these details you never even knew existed.
Okay, so we've zoomed in on these intricate brain structures. What kind of insights can we actually glean from these, really detailed measurements?
Well, for instance, they found that this roundness factor, how smooth the hippocampus is, it's not just something that changes with age. It seems to actually differ between men and women.
Interesting. So even within a certain age group, there's variation in how, smooth or wrinkled those brain seahorses might be. Any theories about why that is?
It's still early days,
Yeah.
but some researchers think hormonal differences might be involved. Remember, this is all part of a much bigger picture. We're only just starting to untangle this really complex interplay between our genetics, our environment, hormones, brain development, the whole shebang.
And the fact that this research was conducted in Quito, Ecuador, which, is a high-altitude environment, adds a whole other layer of intrigue to this, right?
Absolutely. We've known for a while that altitude affects a bunch of different bodily functions, so, it's not a huge leap to think it might also have an impact on the brain. This study really brings up some interesting questions about whether people living at high altitudes for long periods might experience, different patterns of brain aging compared to those living at sea level.
Could this have any implications for understanding, say, cognitive decline, or even neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's?
It's definitely a possibility. Remember, one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's is a shrinking hippocampus. Now, we're not saying that living at high altitude causes Alzheimer's. That's way too simplistic. But this research does hint that, environmental factors could be playing some kind of role in how our brains age and how susceptible we might be to certain conditions.
It's like we're piecing together this giant, complicated jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? Each new study gives us a few more pieces to work with, helps us see a little bit more of the big picture, and sometimes those pieces come from the most unexpected places, like, the Andes Mountains.
Exactly. That's what makes this field so exciting. We're constantly making these new discoveries that totally challenge our assumptions and really push the boundaries of what we thought we knew about the brain. And ultimately, those discoveries could lead to new ways to protect our brain health, especially as we get older.
Now, this deep dive wouldn't be complete without talking about the potential real-world applications of all this, right? We've covered a lot of ground from, the nitty-gritty of measuring brain shape to the big picture implications for brain health. But what does this all actually mean for, say, the average person? How can we, knowing all this, apply it to our own lives?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's one that researchers are, really eager to explore further. One of the most exciting possibilities is using this kind of detailed brain imaging to detect super subtle changes in the hippocampus changes that might actually be signaling the very early stages of cognitive decline or neurodegenerative diseases.
So instead of waiting for really obvious symptoms to show up, which, let's face it, is often too late, we might be able to intervene way earlier and potentially slow down or even prevent the progression of these diseases.
That's the hope. Imagine a future where getting a brain scan is as routine as, say, getting your cholesterol checked. And imagine those scans could then give your doctor all these personalized insights into your brain health and any risk factors.
That would be, incredible. Early detection is the holy grail for so many health conditions. And to think it could be just as transformative for brain health.
Wow. Right. And here's where it gets even more interesting. This research, it could also open the door for, personalized interventions.
Personalized? So we're not just talking your, one-size-fits-all brain-boosting advice.
Exactly. Think about it. What if we could use this detailed brain imaging to tailor lifestyle recommendations, or even medication or brain training exercises, all fine-tuned to an individual's unique brain structure and their specific risk factors?
So instead of just a blanket statement like everyone should exercise, we could be telling people, okay, based on your hippocampus shape, your lifestyle, your history, these specific types of activities might be the most beneficial for you. That's amazing.
It's like personalized medicine, but for the brain, right?
Sure.
And it all comes back to this, deeper understanding of brain structure, the kind of understanding we're getting from research like this Ecuadorian study.
It really does make you wonder, though, what other secrets is the hippocampus holding on to? What other breakthroughs might be just around the corner,
Oh, I'm sure we're just scratching the surface. But I think one thing's for sure, the hippocampus, it's a key player in our cognitive health, and really understanding its inner workings, its intricacies. That could hold the key to unlocking new treatments, interventions, even entirely new ways to enhance our brain function, throughout our lives.
So with all that said, all this fascinating stuff we've learned about the hippocampus, what can people listening do, like, right now to support their own brain health? Should we all be booking flights to the Andes, adopting a high-altitude lifestyle?
The Andes are beautiful, I'll grant you that, but I wouldn't recommend relocating just yet. There are plenty of things we can all do to support our brain health, and a lot of them are honestly surprisingly simple.
Okay, well, don't leave us hanging. Give us the brain-boosting to-do list.
All right, so first and foremost, stay active. Physical exercise, it's been shown time and time again to have a really positive impact on brain health, and that includes, yep, you guessed it, hippocampal volume.
Okay, so lace up those sneakers, get moving, got it. What else?
Challenge your brain. It's kind of like our bodies, right? Just like our bodies need physical activity, our brains, they thrive on mental stimulation. So we're talking learning new skills, doing puzzles, playing those brain training games, reading, having those really intellectually stimulating conversations. It can all help keep your hippocampus firing on all cylinders.
Basically, never stop learning. I can definitely get behind that one.
Exactly. And don't underestimate, honestly, the power of a good night's sleep. Sleep, it's absolutely crucial for, well, memory consolidation for sure, but really for overall brain health.
So those late-night study sessions, those all-nighters, they might actually be backfiring.
It's all about balance, right? And speaking of balance, managing stress. Chronic stress, it can have really detrimental effects on the hippocampus and really just brain health in general. So find what helps you unwind, de-stress. Maybe it's meditation, yoga, spending time out in nature, listening to music, whatever works.
It really is all connected, isn't it? Physical health, mental health, our lifestyle choices, it all comes back around to shape our brains in some way.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think this research on the hippocampus, it's a really powerful reminder that we actually have a lot more control over our brain health than we might think.
That's a great point. It's empowering, honestly, to know that we can be taking these steps today to, potentially protect our cognitive health down the road. So, with that in mind, let's raise a toast, shall we? To our remarkable hippocampi, those tiny seahorses that hold the keys to our memories, our experiences, and maybe, just maybe, our future well-being too.
To the hippocampus. And honestly, to the power of, scientific inquiry to keep unlocking these mysteries of the brain and empowering all of us to live healthier, more fulfilling lives.
Absolutely. And for you, dear listener, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity about that incredible world, the one inside your head. Keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep those brain seahorses happy and healthy. We'll see you next time.